Recently, we have decided to build a game in just 1 week. This left me only 2 hours to do cover art for the game. Since I am not a graphic designer, I decided to use ChatGPT, and it turns out the new image generation is pretty solid. I was able to go from this, which was my in-game avatar, to this, which was the final cover art. And I did this in under 2 hours. Honestly, I could do this much faster if I knew the right process, which is kind of the point of this video. That's why today I want to show you my process, and I will share with you some tips and tricks that I learned along the way. Okay, so my process had 3 steps. First, prepare resources. Second, generate image or images with ChatGPT. Step 3, finalize the art in traditional image editor. Okay, so we go first to step 1, because we need to have proper resources before we start generating images. First, you will need to figure out what kind of composition you are aiming for. Composition is quite critical because it really can sell your product. Once you have figured that out, you need to sketch it. You can do it on paper or you can do it in Paint. For me, I just used Paint in Windows. And this is what I sketched. Okay, so to explain, our game was a multiplayer game where each character or player is an eye with 2 boxing gloves. The whole point of the game is that you can punch the other one with your boxing glove. So in my composition, I wanted to reflect this. Now the sketch looks very funny, but it's enough. So here in my sketch there are 2 characters. One is hitting the other one in the eye. For the sketch you have 2 options. You can either color code it, like I did in my example. That means each element has different color, and then you just explain to ChatGPT what it means. Or you can just draw lines and describe every element there, but it's a little bit more chaotic. Second, you will need any additional resources which are relevant to your case. For example, in my case, I only had 1 character, so I just took a screenshot from our game, which was this character, and that was it. That was all I needed. But in case you have multiple elements, then it's better to provide them. However, it's not necessary, he can usually figure it out on his own, unless it's super specific. Great, now we can get to the more interesting part. Step 2, image generation with ChatGPT. This step has 2 sub-steps, and it's important to understand how to use them. The first step is prompt engineering, which is quite common, and the second is image iteration, or at least that is how I call it. Okay, so what is prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is basically fine-tuning our prompt by trial and error. So we take a prompt, we put it to ChatGPT, at the first try it's probably not good, so we change the prompt again, start a new conversation, and do it again. The important thing is here, if you do the first prompt and it's not good, then do not try to argue with him, because at this point he doesn't really know how to fine-tune an image. Okay, so what should the prompt include? It should explain all the references you give him, so that means all resources like the composition or images. Then you should also try to explain, like for example in the composition I'm using color coding, so I explain this to him. Blue means this, red means that. So you want it to be short, but you want it to include all relevant information. Okay, so this was my first prompt. First I gave him both images as references, and then I wrote, generate high quality stylized cover art based on 2 images. First sketch depicts the composition of the image, blue is used for eye, the red is used for boxing gloves. Second image shows the character, which only has an eye, which is the head, and boxing gloves. Without any arms, just floating boxing gloves. And this was important because I didn't want him to include arms in the image. This was the resulting image, which was pretty good but didn't fully work for me yet. It has an extra boxing glove, I didn't really like the art style, and it's missing the dynamics. Okay, so here is what you shouldn't do. You shouldn't try to explain to him, there are 5 boxing gloves. The one, the highest, makes no sense. Please remove and regenerate. He tries to do it, but now there are only 3 hands. So this is why I do not suggest on reiterating on the image when it's not like 70-80% where you want it to be. Okay, so now we are doing prompt engineering. So I just copy pasted my initial prompt. I added that I want a realistic cover art because I didn't like the original one. And I also added at the end here that he should try to add emphasis on the dynamics of the boxing. Unfortunately, the result again wasn't very good. The realistic was just a little bit too realistic, and he completely messed up the composition. So if this happens, if he completely messes something up, sometimes you can just take the same prompt, try it over again with some small changes. So I tried the third prompt, and this one worked pretty well. The first thing I did, I changed the initial image, which was this one, to something like this, because it better represented the composition I was aiming for. Then I just took the same prompt, and I only removed the photorealistic part, because I didn't like that, and I added one line, which I'm not sure if it helped or not, but maybe yes. I told him to follow all the guidelines and instructions below, which I don't know if he really needs to hear this, but it seemed to help somehow. Okay, so this was the image he generated, and I was quite satisfied with it. I think he nailed the composition here because the first eye is really hitting the other eye in his face. And this was the most important thing as the selling point for the game. Second, the art style is pretty decent. And third, even the dynamics is there. There is a little bit of smudginess or blurriness to it. Okay, so this is the end of prompt engineering. The prompt is good enough, the image is good enough, so now we will just iterate the existing image. Now, off topic for just 1 second. Guys, please, if you do like this video and you want more such videos, please do subscribe, it will help me a lot. Thank you. Okay, so how to iterate the image, and more importantly, what can we iterate? Because some things it's not wise to iterate. And the first rule is, do not try to change the composition now. If it doesn't work, just make a new prompt in a new chat again. So the iterations are very good for things like lighting or post-processing if you need to add brightness or contrast. Or even if you want to adjust the background, which I also needed to do. Okay, so here are the things that I told ChatGPT. First, I gave him a compliment because he did a pretty good job, but it still needs some changes. So first I told him to add more contrast and exposure. Then I told him to add blur or smudge to the boxing glove and to the eye that is getting hit. And last, I needed the background to be dark. And this was what he generated. So the background is gone, which is good, but the blur is not really working out. So I told him to remove the blur and to try to add some lighting. This was my prompt. Remove the blur and make the lighting more interesting. I told him specific instructions to put orange light on the left side and turquoise light from the right side. So this is what he generated. And it has some issues. He changed the composition a little bit, the dynamic is missing, and again, one boxing glove is missing. Okay, so what to do now, right? Iterating this image now is gonna be pain in the ass because there is no boxing glove, or well, one is missing. So instead, I just went up, I looked at the last image that I liked. In my case, it was this one. So I just copy pasted this image and started a new conversation again. So here is a new prompt, a new chat, where I told him to generate a new image based on the one that I sent him, keep everything the same, but change some things. Remove background, add much more contrast and exposure, and smudge the right eye. This is what I got. It was pretty good, but the contrast was way too much. So I told him two things: reduce the contrast, increase the exposure, and add lighting. Again, bright orange from the left side and less bright turquoise from the right side. Okay, those were three things actually. Okay, so this was the image ChatGPT generated and I was pretty satisfied with it. It had the right composition, it has good colors, good lighting, it has dynamics, and it has decent exposure and contrast. So for me, this was the end of step 2, and just be aware that you will never get to 100% of what you're trying to achieve, of what is your imagination and your goal, because we are not so far with the image generation tools just yet. And that is the reason why we actually need to go for the third step, which is taking this image and finalizing it with the standard image editing tools. Okay, so just one disclaimer. When I was doing it originally, I wasn't recording anything and I deleted all my chats with ChatGPT, so I lost the prompting. Therefore, for this tutorial, I had to do it from scratch. But the third step I only did for the original image because I had to actually upload it to the store. So that's why I will show you the first step with the original image that I created. So this was my original. It is quite similar, maybe a little bit better in something and worse with other things. So to take this art and actually be able to upload it as my cover art, I needed to do some things in image editor. I used GIMP, but you can use anything that you are somewhat experienced in. Okay, so I opened this in GIMP and I did some things. I increased exposure. I played around with the colors a little bit and then I smudged a little bit more the eye. So you can see here on the top and the bottom I added a little bit of smudging, also a little bit on the hands to increase the dynamics. Then I had to add a title for our game, so I actually just went ahead and told ChatGPT what is the name of our game and he generated a title for me. So this is what he generated. I didn't have much time, so I said this is fine for me. And it was basically done. Then I just had to export 3 different aspect ratios, or actually 5. As a proof, you can check out the store link for our game. It's actually a VR game and you can see the cover art there. And if you have a VR headset, I recommend you to try it. Okay, so that is all from me today. If you got here to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. I really do, and I would be even more happy if you could also subscribe. I hope you stay tuned for the next videos. See you!